Chris and Lucy, a couple in their 30s, have meticulously planned an interrail journey across Europe for 10 days, with a particular emphasis on exploring the enchanting country of France to strengthen their bond. Chris radiates an outgoing and cheerful personality. He is funny, even if seen as rude at times. Lucy, on the other hand, tends to be slightly more uptight, although she still knows how to have fun in her unique way. As they eagerly prepare for their adventure and board the Eurorail en route to France, their relationship dynamics become increasingly apparent. They find themselves engaged in occasional arguments over seemingly trivial matters, such as discussions about their respective hairstyles, shaving, and the inappropriate use of the camera. Despite Chris's determined efforts to achieve a clean shave, his persistent stubble stubbornly resists his grooming rituals, ultimately revealing his endearing quirks. While sleeping, an unexpected alarm disrupts their sleeping, prompting them to swiftly move out, with Chris naked outside. Upon their arrival in Paris, renowned for its romantic ambience, they eagerly embark on a captivating journey of exploration and delight. Their next destination, Nice, proves to be a turning point, as Lucy's disposition takes a downturn in response to Chris's sarcastic quips and peculiar brand of humor. They settle into a mini hostel, where the confined space restricts their comfort, especially with the presence of a cramped bunk bed, having to sleep separately. During the check-in process, an unfortunate encounter unfolds when the receptionist poses an inappropriate question to Lucy, leading to Chris, draped in nothing but a towel, descending to the reception area to confront the staff member. However, instead of diffusing the situation, their confrontation spirals into an embarrassing altercation, fueled by Chris's deliberate provocation. Consequently, they are compelled to abruptly vacate the hostel, leaving Chris burdened with a hefty fine of €500. Seeking a resolution to their financial setback, Chris reaches out to his mother for assistance, forcing them to navigate their journey with a significantly diminished budget. Recognizing the potential impact of such trips on relationships, Lucy acknowledges that their interrail adventure could be a pivotal moment for their bond. Despite the setback in their finances, they wholeheartedly immerse themselves in the picturesque beach of Nice, finding joy in playful moments and embracing the challenges they face. Their attempts to order food in French, however, result in a comedic miscommunication, leaving them with a dish of unprepared and unscaled fish. Continuing their adventurous journey, Chris and Lucy venture further across the country, discovering enchanting woods adorned with ancient ruins and delighting in the refreshing experience of skinny dipping in a secluded river beneath the surrounding residences, savoring the blissful ambience of the summer season. While enjoying a meal at a restaurant, they find themselves getting frisky within the confines of a bathroom. However, their private moment takes an unexpected turn when Lucy suddenly has the urge to defecate, resulting in unintentional loud noises that capture the attention of the vigilant train staff, prompting them to be kicked out from the train. As they wait for their train, tensions mount, reaching a boiling point as Chris accuses Lucy of devouring the chocolate bars, a claim she vehemently denies. Their disagreement escalates into a heated argument, with both parties unearthing past transgressions and nursing deep-seated resentments. Insults about their appearances, behaviors, and personal grievances fly back and forth, leaving them both wounded and vulnerable. Overwhelmed by her emotions, Lucy storms off, leaving Chris behind to navigate the labyrinthine alleyways and narrow streets on his own. Seeking solace, Chris seeks refuge in a pub, but his peace is short-lived when he spots Lucy amidst a group of men, joyfully dancing without a care in the world. Concerned for her well-being, Chris cautions her, hinting at the potential ulterior motives of her companions. Despite his words of warning, Lucy dismisses his apprehensions, unwilling to let them dampen her spirit. In the makeshift dance club, they let loose and dance the night away, despite Chris's lack of dancing skills. He makes the most of it and tries to have a great time. Later, as they resume their conversation, Chris divulges the peculiar story of how they first crossed paths, involving his somewhat creepy stalking of Lucy. Jokingly, he compliments her attractiveness and playfully teases her for letting herself go. It appears that exchanging playful insults has become their unique way of expressing affection. Although, to the outside eyes, it may seem mean and unromantic, for Lucy, it is their love language. Because Lucy laughs a lot at Chris's jokes and crazy quirks, she likes him for it. Engrossed in their banter, they completely lose track of time and forget about the train they were supposed to catch. Hastily, they race to the train station, and luckily manage to board just in the nick of time. The train is bound for Milan, and they continue documenting their journey as they explore the renowned fashion capital. They wander around, making a pit stop at a pharmacy, chasing pigeons, and engaging in various activities, completely oblivious to the fact that they haven't changed their clothes. Oh well, it doesn't bother them. Taking a short break, Chris receives a call, but accidentally drops his phone, leading to a predicament as he can't recall his own mother's number. They try coming up with alternatives, but nothing yields. Struggling to find a solution, their financial constraints add to the challenge, leaving them unable to contact Chris's mom. Eventually, they find another hostel for the night, and Lucy grows irritated when she notices Chris flirting with the receptionist, who has a snarky attitude toward Lucy. Once inside their room, Chris collapses after Lucy playfully hits him, only to wake up later and confront her about without the head punch. Chris, overwhelmed by anger and feeling betrayed by Lucy's unprovoked attack, storms off for a solitary walk, hurling insults at her. Meanwhile, Carly, the receptionist, approaches Chris, offering him a cigarette and introducing herself. Chris, still fuming, vents his frustration, blaming Lucy for hitting him. Carly, undeterred by his anger, shamelessly flirts with him, intensifying their interaction. Carly's behavior and bold choice of words suggest her desire to get Chris. However, failing to set Chris in her trap, she becomes direct and asks Chris if he wants to sleep with her. Chris is shocked by her audacity, but reminds her that he has a girlfriend. However, Carly tries to set them apart by reminding Chris that Lucy hit him. Unprovoked, Carly lunges a kiss at Chris, who just freezes like a statue. Lucy witnesses this heartbreaking moment, only calling out to Chris before walking back into the hostel room. Filled with remorse and determination, Chris races after her, desperate to salvage their bond and bridge the growing divide between them. As he chases after Lucy, his mind grapples with the consequences of his actions. Each step he takes is a reminder of his missteps and the need for redemption. In an attempt to lighten the atmosphere, he clumsily jokes about his nausea while using the staircase, hoping to bring a moment of levity to the situation. Overwhelmed by her emotions, Lucy seeks solace in the dimly lit bar and finds a seat. It is at this moment that Audrey enters the scene, her presence exuding a comforting aura that draws Lucy's attention. Lucy pours out her confusion and turmoil to Audrey. The stranger's soft-spokenness captivates Lucy, allowing her to share her deepest insecurities. She speaks of her grievances, expressing how unfair it feels for Chris to let a girl kiss him the first time they meet. Out of nowhere, Audrey kisses Lucy, and her senses are momentarily stunned. Through this act, Audrey seeks to prove that Chris, too, might have been caught off guard by Carly's advances, unable to stop them. Lucy is mind-blown by the possibility. Lucy begins to see her relationship with Chris in a new light when asked about what she likes and hates about him. She acknowledges his flaws and immaturity. She describes Chris's drunkenness and his constant joking about everything. Audrey's insights prompt Lucy to reflect only on Chris's flaws, and not the aspects of him that she previously overlooked. Lucy contemplates going home to London, but Audrey persuades her that she can continue the planned trip without Chris. Audrey, sensing her hesitation, paints a vivid picture of the possibilities that await Lucy in Venice. She offers Lucy a place to stay while in Venice, introducing her to a friend of Audrey's. Her generosity does not end there, as she even offers her place for the night before Lucy embarks on her next planned trip. In Audrey, she has found an unexpected ally, someone who understands her need for independence and adventure. Meanwhile, Chris is defecating in the bathroom, and as he sees the trash, he notices a wand that resembles a pregnancy test. It is probably the one they bought earlier at a pharmacy stop, since it is written in Italian. Chris continues to read the package to understand what it means. Grappling with the words, he concludes that the result of the pregnancy test is positive. This shocks Chris. He goes out as the night's events mess with his head. He goes to the same pub where Lucy was earlier, but she is no longer there. He sits at the same spot and orders a drink. As he replays the footage on his GoPro, the bartender, a middle-aged man with a salt and pepper beard and a friendly smile, notices the flickering images on the small screen. Curiosity piques his interest, and he leans over the counter, attempting to communicate with Chris about the woman in the video, Lucy. The bartender tries to tell him in limited English that the woman on the camera is Lucy. However, the language barrier proves to be a formidable obstacle, as Chris can't understand the bartender's attempts to convey Lucy's presence at the bar. The bartender, determined to help Chris, gestures towards the screen, pointing at Lucy's face and making a few gestures, hoping to indicate that she was at the bar earlier. Frustration etches across his brow as he tries different gestures and expressions, but Chris, caught up in his own world, remains blissfully oblivious to the bartender's efforts. Chris continues to crack jokes, his laughter echoing through the room. Each jest becomes more exaggerated, his persistent refusal to take things seriously transforming into a playful annoyance. The bartender's attempts to communicate grow increasingly futile. Feeling defeated, the bartender finally gives up. Chris is left on his own, retreating to a vacant seat at another table. After a few moments, the bartender makes his way back to Chris, a newfound determination in his eyes. He pours 2 glasses of whiskey, sliding one towards Chris, and raises his glass in a silent toast. Chris, momentarily taken aback by the bartender's persistence, raises an eyebrow in surprise, but soon finds himself reciprocating the gesture. Lucy tosses and turns in her bed, sleep eluding her restless mind. The sound of a distant voice echoes through the alleyway, but she dismisses it as a mere fragment of imagination, covering her eyes in a futile attempt to find solace in the darkness. Chris stumbles back to the hostel, clearly intoxicated, his steps faltering on the worn cobblestones. With bleary eyes, he checks out, a sense of urgency gripping him as he asks for the time. A sarcastic farewell escapes his lips as he snarkily wishes Carly luck, regretting his bitterness almost instantly when he realizes that he is late for his trip. The realization of time slipping away dawns on Chris, intensifying the mounting pressure within him. The next train allows a mere 10-minute window for boarding, leaving him with little margin for error. Both Lucy and Chris arrive separately in time. While Lucy revels in the city's charm, her senses awakened by the vibrant colors of Venetian facades, Chris appears noticeably less cheerful than before. The labyrinthine streets that would typically ignite wonder within him now fail to capture his attention. Venice, with its enchanting allure, seems diminished in his eyes, overshadowed by the uncertainties that plague his mind. Separated by their own experiences, Lucy and Chris explore Venice, their paths unbeknownst to each other. The city holds the promise of serendipitous encounters, but whether destiny will bring them together once again remains to be seen. As Lucy arrives at the address provided by Audrey, she feels a mixture of anticipation and relief. The door swings open, revealing Mia, and welcoming the British tourist with an embrace. Mia listens attentively as Lucy pours out her heart. Meanwhile, Chris tirelessly continues his search for Lucy, determined to find her amidst the alleys of Venice. Hoping to stumble upon any clue or lead, he visits different hostels, inquiring about a woman named Lucy. Recording his journey on his vlog, he captures the sights and sounds of the city, the rhythmic strokes of the gondola car, and the whispers of water against the ancient walls. As Chris glides along the Venetian canals, his camera capturing his solitary voyage, Lucy stands above a bridge, gazing down at the gentle ripples below. Unbeknownst to each other, their paths are on the brink of convergence. Mia and Lucy seem to have drawn closer, as if they are longtime friends. Approaching her with a warm smile, Mia invites Lucy to join her for a night of dancing, sensing that it might uplift her. Lucy hesitates, expressing her concern about not having anything suitable to wear for such an occasion. To her surprise, the girl kindly offers her clothes, embracing the opportunity to share a gesture of friendship. Meanwhile, Chris, weighed down by his struggles, finds solace on a bench overlooking a serene sight. His presence has inadvertently intruded into the personal space of an elderly woman sitting beside him. The woman is surprised, but just allows Chris to talk endlessly in a language she cannot understand. In his candidness, he unintentionally reveals fragments of Lucy's life, sharing that she witnessed another girl kissing Chris, a moment that left a lasting impression on her. The elderly woman is continuously confused. Determination flickers within him, mingling with remorse. Despite the hardships he faces, he makes a sincere promise to himself that if he ever finds Lucy, he will apologize and make amends for his mistakes, longing for a chance to set things right. Eventually, the futility of his endeavors becomes undeniable, and Chris reluctantly accepts the need to retreat. With heavy steps and a burdened heart, he wanders through the alleyways, the weight of sadness and weariness pressing upon him. The camera, once a source of joy and companionship, now becomes a mere witness to his desolation. Returning to the same bench where he sought solace before, Chris continues recording. But this time, anger and self-blame course through his veins. The jovial persona he often relied upon as a shield is now crumbling, revealing the flaws within himself that Lucy was unable to appreciate. He recognizes his tendency to seek laughter, only to sour the mood instead, leaving a trail of unintended consequences in his wake. The depths of his loneliness without Lucy become an overwhelming reality, and tears well in his eyes as he confronts his shortcomings. In that vulnerable moment, Chris resolves to change himself for the better. With a renewed determination and a promise etched into his soul, he vows not to give up on finding Lucy, to mend the broken pieces of himself, and to learn from the mistakes that have brought him to this point. The weight of his emotions, the ache of longing, and the realization of his flaws intertwine. Lucy and Mia head to a bustling indie bar in Venice, immersing themselves in the lively atmosphere. The music pulsates through the air, and laughter fills the room as they enjoy their drinks and dance the night away. Finding a quiet spot near a bridge, they engage in heartfelt conversations, forming a deep connection. Mia and Lucy step out, breathing in the Venetian atmosphere, and finding a quiet place to chill. In this intimate moment, Mia shares her own story of being abandoned by her lover, but choosing to stay in Venice. Inspired by Mia's vulnerability, Lucy feels compelled to confide in her as well. With a sense of trust, Lucy reveals her pregnancy, a mix of emotions lingering in the air. Mia, surprised yet curious, gently inquires about Lucy's feelings for the father of her child. Lucy, with unwavering confidence, expresses her love for him. Their conversation carries a profound weight as they open up to each other, finding peace in shared experiences and mutual understanding. The bridge becomes a symbol of their connection, a place where secrets are exchanged, and a bond of friendship is forged. On the train to Florence, Lucy and Chris coincidentally find themselves in each other's proximity once again. However, Chris is fast asleep, oblivious to Lucy's presence as she searches for her seat. The train journey passes uneventfully, with Lucy quietly navigating the crowded aisles. Upon arriving in Florence, Chris musters a sense of responsibility and approaches a receptionist, showing them a photo of Lucy in the hopes of finding a clue. However, his tired and dismissive demeanor only yields unhelpful responses. Disappointed, Chris decides to change his approach and ventures off to a different location, determined to continue his search. In his relentless pursuit, Chris encounters an elderly gentleman, to whom he shows another photo of Lucy. Unfortunately, the gentleman can't recall her face, or the context in which he might have seen her. Disheartened, Chris bids the gentleman farewell, his determination waning. Meanwhile, Lucy arrives at a nearby inn and approaches the reception desk to secure a room for herself. The elderly gentleman, with a vague sense of familiarity, struggles to piece together the details of their encounter, but is sure that he has seen her before. As the day turns to night, Chris perseveres through the streets of Florence, determined to find any trace of Lucy. Fatigue begins to weigh heavily on him, both physically and mentally. Seeking respite, he stumbles upon a bar, hoping to find a temporary escape from his persistent pursuit. Within the dimly lit bar, Chris seeks solace in the company of other patrons, numbing his troubled thoughts with the drinks he consumes. As the night wears on, his intoxicated state leads him back to the inn where Lucy has booked a room, accompanied by the elderly gentleman he encountered earlier. Their arrival coincides with the appearance of a woman responsible for their registration. In his inebriated state, Chris attempts to amuse the receptionist, but his impaired judgment and failed attempts at humor only add to his frustrations. No longer keeping himself together, he cusses at the unapologetic receptionist. With a sense of defeat, he eventually makes his way to his assigned room, his weariness weighing heavily upon him. With the night casting a shadow over his quest, Chris settles into his room, causing noises. Lucy, caressing her belly with tenderness, cherishes the precious life growing inside her. However, her peaceful sleep is abruptly shattered by a disruptive noise emanating from the neighboring room, occupied by none other than Chris. Irritated by the disturbance, Lucy retaliates by forcefully banging on the wall, a clear message for him to keep the noise down. The following morning, still carrying traces of frustration, Lucy heads to the reception desk to address the behavior of the rude and noisy guest. Engaging in a conversation with the staff, she expresses her dissatisfaction, with which the woman empathizes. After venting her concerns, Lucy inquires about the location of the piazza, her curiosity urging her to explore the city further. Meanwhile, Chris, caught up in a whirlwind of self-pity, reluctantly emerges from the bathroom and leaves the room. Checking out, the elderly gentleman suddenly remembers Chris and Lucy. He tells Chris news that he has been wanting to hear. The gentleman mentions that he spotted Lucy during breakfast, and alerts the woman's staff to ask for more information. However, the woman seems reluctant to divulge anything, out of concern for the female guest. Chris works to convince the woman, and she eventually shares the information that Lucy is headed toward Piazza della Libertà. Fueled by newfound determination, Chris rushes out, desperate to catch up with Lucy. With new bouts of energy, he sprints off to find the woman he loves. However, his sprint soon takes a toll on his exhausted body, and he collapses halfway, gasping for breath. In a twist of fate, as Chris lies on the ground, Lucy appears before him, seemingly out of nowhere. Overwhelmed by a flood of emotions, Chris tightly embraces Lucy, fearing that she might slip away again. With sincere apologies pouring from his heart, he explains the tireless efforts he made to find her, and shares the various experiences he had during his quest. Lucy, true to her straightforward nature, playfully calls Chris an idiot, but her underlying affection shines through as she acknowledges that he is indeed her idiot. Grateful for finding her pregnancy test, Chris acknowledges their impending parenthood, and pledges to be a responsible and loving father. He humbly apologizes once more, promising to make positive changes, and leave his past behavior behind. In response, Lucy suggests they make tracks together, a nod to the movie's namesake, symbolizing their shared journey and the mark they will leave on the world. With newfound hope and a renewed sense of purpose, they set forth, hand in hand, ready to embrace the challenges and joys that lie ahead, as they build a future filled with love, understanding, and the anticipation of welcoming their child into the world.